Hey guys, FiberFlet Time Wizard here. I just want to let you know that this video is absolutely insane. Make sure you watch it till the end. Time Wizard FiberFlet out. What's going on, guys? FiberFlet here, and welcome to Java episode 5. Today we're going to be covering arrays. This is going to be a start of our data structure section of Java programming. Data structures are like one of the most important parts of Java programming and programming in general. As I said in the first episode, programming is really just like storing data efficiently, and data structures are a very important part of it. Today we're going to be talking about arrays. This is for the most part the most basic data structure you're going to come across in Java programming. And yeah, we're going to get into it. So what is an array? Think of an array kind of like a train. It's basically a bunch of integers or variables of the same type linked together. Each compartment of the train would hold a different value. So let's say this was an array of integers. This red front car of the train could hold the value 5. This orange compartment could hold the value 6. This green one could hold the value 22. And this blue one could hold the value 32. Basically, it's a bunch of variables that are linked together in an array. So now let's go over how to make an array. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to say the type of variable you want for each of your sections of your array. You're going to do square brackets to tell Java that we are in fact making an array. Then you do its name, and then you have to do equals new, the same type again. And here you can either do two things. You can either give it the array itself, you can give it the values, or you can give it the size. If you don't know what values you want to put in the array yet, let's say you want to make an array of size 5 that just has a bunch of random like numbers from 0 to 1,000. You would want to just pass 5 here. That would make an array of size 5 that could hold up to 5 values. If you already know the values that you want to put into the array, you simply put curly brackets and then just do the values separated by commas. If you want to change a value, add an index in the array, you do its name, and then you do the square brackets and you put what number index it is, and then you just do simply equals 1. And if you want to access a value at a certain index in the array, you simply just do the name and then you pass the index number inside of the square brackets. So let's talk about how indexes work in arrays. So we have the same train from our first slide. As you can see, arrays start at 0. The first value in an array is 0, and then it increments from there. So this is an array of size 4, but to access the last value in this array, you would have to pass 3 inside of square brackets instead of 4. That's a very important thing. Just remember that. Keep in mind that arrays start at 0. Now we're going to go over some examples of arrays. The first example is we want to make an array that holds up to 10 strings. Go ahead and comment down below your answer to this problem. If you comment down below string, your square brackets, Greg is equal to a new string, square brackets, and you pass 10 there, you would be correct. We're making an array named Greg that holds up to 10 strings. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make an array that holds the ints 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll give you guys a second. Go ahead and comment down below your solution. If you commented down below int, I can only count to 4 equals new int, and then your little curly braces 1, 2, 3, and 4, you will have been correct. Now, this is more of a conceptual question. We want to set the value at index 69 of I can only count to 4 to 4. Go ahead and comment down below how you do that. And if you did int square bracket 69 equals 4, you would be wrong, because I can only count to 4 only holds up to 4 maximum values. If you pass it the index 69, that does not exist in the context of this array, and that would cause your program to crash. And you don't want to do that, because if you cause your program to crash by an out of bounds error with an array, you are super stinky and a stinky poo-poo head, poopy pants, pee poo-poo stinky guy. And for our last example, we want to make an array that holds a super duper secret code. If you comment down below int square bracket secret equals new int and then all of this, you have been correct. You have to match it exactly to get that question correctly. So if you did comment down below that exactly, because then you have gotten it correct. So that's kind of the basics of arrays. Like most things in programming, you get the best like visualization through application. So now we're going to go into our programming section of the video and do some programming. Ooh. All right, guys. So now that we are in our program, I'm going to go ahead and showcase our scenario that we're working with. We're going to go ahead and run this file real quick. So in this world, we have a racetrack right here. It's defined as 5 beepers at the end. We're going to create a Karl race scenario. Basically, we're going to make 5 Karls race each other. They're going to randomly be chosen to move, and the first one to the end of the beepers wins the race. So how are we going to do that? We're going to utilize a race for that. But before we do that, the first step that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make each of our Karls. So if you guys don't remember, we're going to do robot Karl is equal to new robot. We're going to go ahead and pass its parameters. We're going to want it to start at free 1. He's going to face east and have 0 beepers. We're going to go ahead and copy and paste this 5 times because we're going to want 5 Karl objects because they are each going to be moving independently. We're going to want to change these values right here so they start in a line. Next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to rename each Karl because we can't have multiple objects with the same name. So we're going to name this one Fiber. We're going to name this one Max. We're going to name this one Cock Y Roach. And the last one we're going to name is Squeaks the Rat. We're going to go ahead and compile that. And if we did everything successfully, we should see 5 Karel J robots now in a line. So the next thing we're going to want to handle is making the array itself. As we showcased in the slides, we're going to have to first say what type it is. It's going to be an array of robots. We're going to have to make sure that we put the square brackets so Java does know that we are working with an array. We're going to give it a name. We're going to name this racers because it's going to be an array of all of our racers. We're going to have it equal a new robot array. This time, we're going to be passing each of our robot objects that we already created. So we're going to go ahead and type Karl, comma, Fiber, comma, Max. We're going to go ahead and hit enter here to just make it more readable, make the Java program more readable. We're going to recenter ourselves. So we're going to name Cock Y Roach. And then finally, we need Squeaks the Rat. We're going to go ahead and do our end bracket here. And then, of course, put our semicolon. Go ahead and compile that. We did it successfully, so there are no errors. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a couple variables that we're going to be using later on in our program. A good Java practice and in any programming language really is that you want to give names to to numbers that you're going to be using multiple times. So in this case, we're going to be taking the amount of racers. We're going to be using that multiple times. So we're going to go ahead and make an int, and we're going to call it number of racers. We're going to have it equal to our racers array, and we're going to call dot length. This is a function of an array, and it simply just returns the length of the array, which in this case, it would return 5. So our number of racers would be equal to 5. Next thing we're going to have to make is a random number generator. It's going to be called random. That's our object type. Rand is equal to new random. This is going to go ahead and throw an error in our program. Just like when we were trying to use Karel J Robot and we didn't import Karel J Robot up here, that's going to cause an error. This is a different library in Java, so we're going to have to go ahead and make a new import statement. We're going to say import java.util.random. Go ahead and make sure we put our semicolon at the end, and that should solve our error. All right, so next thing we're going to do is make our while loop. We're going to say while true, and then go ahead and put down our curly brackets. Now we want to go step by step and think about what we want this program to really do. The first thing we need to do is to figure out what random robot of our 5 we want to move. And the first thing we have to do is to generate a random value between 0 and 4 that we will be using as the index for our racer. The way we're going to do that is we're going to do int index of racer. That's going to go ahead and equal rand.nextInt. And we're going to pass it with the value 5. Now, you may ask, why are we giving it 5 and not 4? That's because nextInt is not inclusive, meaning the maximum value that it can generate is -1 of the parameter that we pass. So we give it 5, which means maximum value that can generate is 4. Next thing we want to do is we're going to make a temporary robot object that's going to be equal to our target racer. So we're just going to do robot target racer is equal to our array of racers sub index of racer. All right, so now that we have our target racer, we're going to go ahead and first check if the racer is on the finish line or not. The way we're going to do that is we're going to just do target racer dot next to a beeper. And if that is true, we know it's on the finish line, so we don't want it to move. And actually, if it is true, we're going to go ahead and call racer sub index of racer, and we're going to go ahead and set that to null. Now, null in Java is a thing that can be assigned to any variable, no matter what type it is. We're going to use it as an indicator to tell us when this program should exit. So don't worry about that for now. It's going to come up once we finish writing the rest of this program. And if it is not next to a beeper, we're going to go ahead and make this target racer move. So now that we've done that, this program should work. This should make all of our racers move. However, the issue is once they are all on the finish line, this program will not exit. So now we're going to go ahead and utilize this null that we have here. What we're going to do is we're going to make an integer at the top, and this is going to be called int number of nulls. And we're going to go ahead and set that to 0. Now we're going to go through our array, and we're going to check if the value is null or not. And if it is, we are going to increase the number of nulls. So we're going to do that with a simple for loop. We're going to do for int I equal to 0. I is less than the variable that we set up earlier, which is number of racers. And then we're going to do I plus plus. Now we're going to make an if statement in here, which is going to be if racers sub I is equal to null. We're going to go ahead and increase our value of number of null. We're just going to do that with plus plus. And then finally, after this for loop, we're going to want to go ahead and check if number of null is equal to, if number of null is equal to our number of racers, we know that every single value of our racers array is null, which means they're all on the finish line. So if that is true, we're just going to go ahead and break the while loop. And now we have one more issue. To cause this program not to crash, we need to check if the target racer we have right now is null. Because if it is null and we call this statement right here, the program will crash because null is not a robot object. So if you call null dot next to a beeper, Java has no idea what you're trying to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an if statement. We're going to make something called a nested if statement. We're going to say if target racer does not equal null, then we can go ahead and run this if statement we have down here. So we're going to go ahead. I misspelled that. We're going to go ahead and take this if statement, delete it, and copy and paste it into here. We're going to go ahead and respace it. So now we're just going to go over from the top what this while loop does, and then we're going to go ahead and run it. So the first thing we do is we have an int number of null. We're going to make that 0. We go through our whole array, and if the value of the racer is null, then we increase number of null. If they're all null, then we end our while loop. And if this all goes well, then we know that there is still, if we get to this point in the code, we know that there is still racers that don't have the value null. So that means we're going to generate a random int, which then gives us our target racer. Then we check if target racer is null just to make sure, because we could generate, let's say that Cockwhite Roach became null in our array. The rest of them aren't null, which means we can still get to this point. That we have to double check to make sure target racer is not null, because if it is null, then the program is going to crash when we do target racer dot next to a beeper, or if we do target racer dot move. So if we did everything correctly, we're going to go ahead and run the program, and it should function. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to watch the most
And as you can see, the program has successfully finished. And with that, that's going to be the end of our video today. Our next video might be a little bit shorter because we're done with Karl now. Like Karl's done. He's done, dude. Like we're done with him. We're evolving to our next level of Java programming, which means we need to get past Java and BlueJ itself. We're going to be moving over to a program called Visual Studios. So I think in the next episode, we're just going to be covering how to install that. And yeah, that's probably about it that we're going to cover in that episode. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching the video. If you made it this far, I do really appreciate all the support that I get on these videos. And yeah, stay excellent, dudes.